have to be able to identify them, because what if this gets exploited and used to kill the original, so only the clone is left over? So then you could, as the government or this institution, you would already have a copy of this person's DNA, and you could make more and more copies or clones if you really wanted to. And if they are not to your specification, using this Gaugy gene or protein, you could technically tweak their DNA to be a certain way. And since it controls hunger, pain, and such things, you could take away their pain. You could take away their thought. You could take away their feelings. You could take away a lot of things, or give them a lot more and make them superhuman. For all you know, it can go both ways. It doesn't necessarily have to go the other way, but if they're going to be exploited and destroyed, they probably shouldn't feel any pain or have much thought. But if you're using them for more of like a clone army purposes, they should probably be more superhuman-like. It just depends. But that is also another reason why this second-class clone citizenship becomes a moral and ethical issue, because what if someone falls in love with a clone? Or any government effort to prevent the transfer of an existing embryo or to prevent birth once the transfer has occurred would raise substantial moral, legal, and practical issues, so that it will be nearly impossible to prevent attempts at reproductive cloning once cloned human embryos are available in the laboratory. Essentially, once they've been implanted into a woman, or they've used your sperm and egg in like IVF treatments. And I believe this is also why they are allowing females and males to get IVF treatments together to essentially set up the stage for artificial wombs facilities, which they mentioned above, making it a manufacturing process to begin to grow clones using these collected sperm and eggs that they're collecting in now's time. I think that the women receiving IVF are partially experimental, and that is why at the top they mentioned that it is morally irresponsible and unethical, because in some cases there have been stillborn, unhealthy, or severely disabled children, and sometimes like you can see documentaries online or follow the lives of certain mothers who have received IVF treatments and have severely disabled children. And I would assume this is possibly why, because they might have selected out certain genes or altered certain genes which may or may not have caused such. It states that most places in the world ban this process, including Canada, France, and Germany, 23 other countries. The United Nations has passed a declaration calling for all human cloning to be banned by member nations. But this doesn't make any sense, because they're already doing the IVF technically. But just understand where this leads to. And I personally believe that if humanity continues, they're going to reach this stage, and there's going to be human clones everywhere. And where I mentioned earlier World War III or the Clone Wars start, is because the clones start realizing what's going on, and all the humans get tired of it, and there's those who support it and those who don't. And it creates the two different pathways, and the clones, some of the clones and some of the humans might come together to form like a alliance against these corporations or government or industries which are trying to have this in like a manufacturing like process, because giving birth and having children is technically a natural process, and right now humans still somewhat have the choice. But who says that if things continue down the path that they're going, that it will not reach such a stage? Because every time there's a new set of children inside of schools and other such areas, they, slightly change the way they think from a young age, and the way their health goes, based on the medications and their environment and stuff, which is all controlled. Essentially, clones and technology are growing, and scientific advancements are growing right beside one another right now. Like, this is the time for this. In the future, that they realize this, and that some of these clones and humans come together to essentially use this technology and these drones and stuff, and they program them in such a way to create then essentially the robot wars after that, the clone wars, and that then turns into the robot wars later on, because they use some of this technology to help them defeat these humans who have created this clone army, or who are part of this clone industry. Another reason that I question all of this is because, let's pretend that for some reason your DNA or your cat's DNA got sent off to the International Space Station. While there's rules about cloning and such activities here on Earth, once it reaches space and the International Space Station or other such facilities, the jurisdiction stops of any rules or laws, and I'm not sure if there has been any made about such things, but technically you could get a clone made up there and have it sent down here and you'd never know. But technically, we already know that these clones are already happening here on Earth. Technically it's just the cells, but it is what it is. And if for some reason there really are clones here on Earth or on the International Space Station, you should totally let me meet my clone and my cat. I want to see my Ella. But if that is possible, I would be interested, whether I have to go up to the International Space Station and visit, or if they can come down here. But if it is possible, I would like to know personally.